The hospital doors whooshed open on a typical weekday, unleashing a familiar hum of activity, beeps from monitors, footsteps echoing, chatter bouncing off shiny floors. At first, no one paid attention to the entrance, but then a wave of stunned quiet washed over the crowd. A large German shepherd staggered in, his fur caked in grime and his breaths coming in labored gasps. Slumped over his back was a small girl, limp and unresponsive, her little limbs hanging loosely. Everyone halted in place. A nurse let her paper scatter. Whispers evaporated. No one could fathom how this dog had transported a child right into the ER. He didn't yelp, didn't scan the room, didn't pause. He advanced with clear intent, as though he navigated these corridors countless times before. His gaze remained glued to the trauma bay doors, tuning out the shocked murmurs building around him. An elderly patient clutched his chest. A front desk worker murmured, "Is she even breathing?" A physician stood rooted, struggling to make sense of scene. The child's locks were matted, her outfit ripped, and her skin alarmingly ashen. Still, the dog bore her with remarkable tenderness, every movement deliberate and shielding. In a flash, the scene exploded into action. Medics surged ahead, reflexes taking over. "Grab a stretcher," one called out, but as they neared, the dog emitted a quiet rumble. Not hostile, just a caution. He crouched lower, guarding the girl. The team halted abruptly. The dog's stare pierced anyone venturing too near. It wasn't fury. It was dread that harm might befall her once more. Onlookers traded baffled looks. Who was this kid? How badly was she wounded? And why did this animal behave like her shield? A guard lingered on the periphery of the assembling group. "Should we restrain the dog?" he muttered to a doc. But even he felt this was no routine case. The dog's limbs quivered from fatigue. Yet he wouldn't allow the girl to shift off his back. An EMT bent down, murmuring soothing words to ease him. The dog's ears perked, but he held firm. He simply adjusted, keeping her secure, withholding contact until sure of their motives. Soon after, a compassionate nurse called Sarah inch closer. "Hands up," tone soft. "Easy there, buddy. We're going to aid her." The dog's rigid frame relaxed a bit, his expression warming to her voice. Sarah extended her reach gradually, allowing him to judge. At last, he dipped his muzzle, a quiet nod of faith. Sarah scooped the still girl into her hold, but the dog remained nearby, insistent on keeping watch. Nothing like this had ever unfolded in the facility. Sarah cradled the unresponsive child closely, sensing the kid's weak, erratic inhales on her neck. But as she pivoted to the ER corridor, the German shepherd surged ahead, striding next to her, maintaining zero gap. Personnel cleared the path, muttering in awe as the dog mirrored Sarah's strides. His tail drooped, ears vigilant, eyes scrutinizing every shift nearby. Sarah realized this went beyond devotion. This was desperation. The dog wasn't merely tagging along. He was defending both her and the child. The corridor lamps gleamed on the glossy tiles as Sarah hastened to the trauma suite, pulse racing. The dog synced her speed, circling defensively around her whenever folks drew near too swiftly. A physician dashed alongside, urging, "We must assess her immediately. Hurry." But when he reached to lift the girl from Sarah's grasp, the dog's neck whipped up, a firm cautionary grumble echoing from his throat. The physician yanked back his palms, surprised. Clearly, the dog had selected Sarah solely. Within the trauma suite, devices hummed consistently as Sarah laid the girl tenderly on the table. The dog stationed himself by the bed's end, rigid as a statue, observing each action of the healthcare crew. One aide murmured, "Is he service-trained?" Another said, "He seems to grasp precisely what's going on." Sarah neared cautiously, crouching next to him. She outstretched her limb once more, like in the foyer. "You made the smart choice getting her here," she cooed. The dog's respiration stabilized, acknowledging her timbre. A fellow aide arrived with gear, but the dog's subtle snarl froze him midway. Sarah rose promptly. "Hold on, he's frightened. Show him we're assisting," she demanded. The aide agreed, hunching lower, displaying his palms. Following a strained pause, the dog permitted passage, though his focus stayed unwavering. His demeanor changed, less combative, more worried. He wasn't aiming to harm. He was petrified of failing her. Shortly, the physician reappeared, directing Sarah firmly. We have to transfer her for scans to evaluate inner damage. The dog advanced right away, barring the exit with his form. Sarah crouched once more, cupping his face softly. She requires this. I'll remain with her throughout. The dog shut his lids briefly, her words soothing him. After a prolonged pause, he retreated, though his feet trembled from weariness. Even battered, even terrified, he trailed as they pushed the young girl out, resolute in his vigil. The trauma suite buzzed with activity. Physicians donned gloves, aides tuned screens, and tools activated as Sarah lingered by the girl's flank. The German shepherd anchored at the bed's base like an unyielding watchman, eyes following every glove nearing the kid. The chief doc, Dr. Thompson, bent over her, reviewing signs, scowling at the readings. She's critically parched, he grumbled, likely in shock. Sarah gulped, sweeping soil from the girl's strands. Her wounds didn't appear random, and the dog's restless steps affirmed it. As Dr. Thompson raised the girl's cuff, the atmosphere grew heavy. Shadowy contusions resembling grip imprints lined her limb. Some faded, some alarmingly new. An aide hissed. This was an accident. The dog emitted a quiet moan, bumping the bed's edge as if imploring comprehension. The doc inspected her limbs next. Additional marks, minor gashes, cord-like grooves on her wrists. Sarah's throat constricted. She was bound, she breathed. The crew swapped anxious stares, grasping this child hadn't stumbled into peril. She'd been ensnared in it. Dr. Thompson proceeded, raising the girl's shredded garment a touch to inspect her belly. His face shadowed at once. All hands, ready scans and tests immediately. We need the full picture. Sarah clasped the girl's palm lightly, detecting a subtle shake under her skin. Evidence she clung to life. The dog voiced another gentle cry, edging nearer until his nose lingered by the girl's limb. An aide tried to grant him room, but he stood firm. His whole stance radiated safeguard blended with terror. The group gingerly shifted the girl to a rolling cot for imaging. As it glided ahead, the dog naturally pursued, tail down, inhales more strained than prior. Is he wounded as well? A voice inquired. Sarah glanced and spotted crusted blood by his rear limb. He got harm transporting her, she noted, tone strained. An aide neared to inspect him, but the dog jerked the skull protectively, compelling retreat. Sarah knelt before him. Allow us to aid you two. He paused, divided between ache and obligation, opting for the girl anew. Before exiting the trauma suite, Dr. Thompson halted, eyeing the girl's torso as the display wavered. Her pulse plummeted perilously. She's fading. Act fast, he bellowed. The space ignited with motion once more. Sarah propelled the cot quicker while the dog sped alongside, faltering but unyielding. Workers yelled directives. Portals flung wide and sirens resounded down the passage. The dog released an anguished yelp, the noise piercing and urgent. Whatever ordeal this child survived, whatever threat she fled, they now battled the clock to preserve her. The passage vibrated with haste as personnel dashed the girl to the scanning area. The German shepherd maintained rhythm with the stretcher, hobbling yet refusing to lag. His gasps were uneven now, each draw labored, each release shaky. Sarah observed how his back leg trailed a bit, smearing faint marks on the gleaming surface. He's more damaged than we realized, she said softly. Yet he forged on, gaze fixed on the girl, as if his sheer will sustain her. Resolve propped him up even as his vigor ebbed swiftly. They arrived at the scanning chamber entrances, where only key medics could proceed. As the crew wheeled the girl within, the dog sought to tag along, but an aide softly obstructed him. He uttered an objecting yelp, scratched at the panel, and shoved his brow against a steel joint. Sarah knelt next to him, laying a steadying palm on his breast. They're aiding her, she breathed, but his frame quaked wildly, split between reliance and panic, fidelity and agony. When Sarah withdrew to help the docs, the dog wobbled laterally. His limbs folded briefly before he steadied, but his stamina was clearly waning. A duo in the lounge observed him worriedly. That animal hauled her here, a guy muttered. How distant could he have journeyed in that state? Another helper neared to evaluate him, but the dog raised his skull feebly, delivering a weary caution rumble. Not from hostility, from despair. He still thought he must defend the girl. Moments after, his power finally surrendered with a gentle, gut-wrenching collapse. The dog slumped to the flooring. His rib cage heaved quickly, his form convulsing with depletion. Sarah dashed back, falling to her knees by him. "Hang in there. Stay strong," she begged, gliding her fingers through his coat. Under the filth and congealed blood, she sensed warmth. Excessive warmth. His tissues spasmed from strain. This dog hadn't merely sprinted. He'd borne the girl across distances. An EMT crouched by Sarah, assessing the dog's status. He's profoundly dried out. Requires hydration and care now. Sarah assented swiftly, but he won't permit proximity without trust. She peered into the dog's weary, hazy eyes. "Let us assist. You accomplished all possible." Something eased in his look, fatigued awareness. Gradually, achingly, his skull sank to the ground. He offered no fight as they hoisted him to a carrier. Even out cold, his visage aimed at the scanning door, still striving to oversee the young girl he'd battled fiercely to rescue. Within the scanning chamber, the healthcare crew operated with intense haste. Devices activated as the girl's delicate frame was aligned precisely under the machine. Sarah positioned herself nearby, gripping her tiny palm, noting its growing chill. "Hold on, little one," she murmured. Dr. Thompson oversaw the displays, his forehead creased with worry. Anomalies in density surfaced promptly. "There's inflammation, inner hemorrhaging, likely gut injury." Sarah's spirit dropped. The girl wasn't simply harmed. She was declining rapidly. Beyond, distant yips rang from the corridor, the dog wrestling awareness despite his frailty. Minutes dragged like eternities. The imaging concluded, and the crew sped the girl to a ready urgent station. Sarah remained tight, unwilling to release. The dog, yet on his carrier, raised his skull faintly as she went by. His eyes mellowed, a dim glint of insight shining amid hurt. "She's battling," Sarah whispered, grazing her digits on his jaw. The dog's ears flicked as if affirming he sensed it already. He'd transported that optimism atop his frame straight to refuge. In the urgent station, aides installed drips and tracked her volatile signs. Dr. Thompson issued rapid commands. Transfusion, thermal covers, breathing aid. A doctor re-examined the binding scars on her arms, frowning deeply. This was deliberate, she murmured. Sarah swallowed hard, her emotions surging. She tenderly adjusted the child's locks, her tone hushed. "You're secure here. We'll keep you safe." The child remained silent, her torso rising faintly, each inhale weak and delicate, as if she held on to existence by mere whispers of resilience. Beyond the chamber, physicians huddled over the imaging data. Sarah eavesdropped tensely as Dr. Thompson outlined. Internal tearing from impact force. Surgery's urgent. A colleague queried, "Can she handle it?" Dr. Thompson paused briefly, but delay means she won't survive. Sarah shut her lids, absorbing the gravity. She gazed at the child. So fragile, so battered, yet resilient. It solidified Sarah's determination. She advanced. "Act immediately. The dog got her here purposefully. We must succeed." The crew transported the child to the corridor, alerts blaring as her stats faltered once more. Sarah strode alongside, her palm over the child's, firm and comforting, passing the dog's carrier. He attempted to rise, whimpering quietly. Sarah grazed his foot. "We're heading to operate. She's with us." His frame eased, relying on her fully. The operating theater portals parted. Sarah inhaled deeply, entered with the group, and uttered a last vow to the senseless child. "We'll rescue you." As surgeons labored in seclusion, the facility passage brimmed with strain. 2 officers neared the carrier, cradling the fatigued German shepherd. "Relocate the animal to a secure spot," one stated. "This zone's off limits." The other concurred, edging nearer with wary grips. Yet the instant they contacted the carrier, the dog's lids flew wide. A profound cautionary rumble echoed from his core. Despite fatigue, he heaved himself partially erect, rejecting relocation from the child's procedure area. The officers traded nervous looks. "He's wounded," one contended. "Requires care too." But the dog's rumble intensified, resounding along the passage. Sarah dashed from the area upon the noise. "Halt!" she shouted, positioned between officers and carrier. "He's panicked. Don't compel him." The officers withdrew their holds, observing as the dog strove to stand. Though his limbs vibrated fiercely beneath him, it wasn't hostility. It was reflex, denying division. Sarah crouched by him once more, softly resting her palm on his flank. "She's in operation still," she breathed. The dog's inhales quickened, fretful, his stare darting to the portal sealed post Sarah's exit. Abruptly, his ears perked. His form altered abruptly. He pivoted his skull to the passage's distant tip, fixating keenly. Sarah traced his view, puzzled. "What's wrong?" she said softly. The dog emitted a brief, piercing yelp, distinct from prior. Not terror, not fury, an alert. The officer stiffened. "Investigate?" one inquired. Sarah assented. "He's sensing something, and he's been accurate throughout." The dog yelped anew, stronger, and sought to bound from the carrier. His physique betrayed him. He tumbled back, moaning in aggravation. Sarah laid a soothing palm on his crown. "We'll uncover your message," she cooed. She motioned an officer to accompany her toward the dog's signal path. The passage abruptly felt chillier, muter, fraught. As they turned the bend, the buzz of medical gear diminished under a spooky hush. A utility portal stood ajar, meant to stay secured. Sarah scowled. This was shut before. The officer nudged it open, exposing disarrayed goods. An overturned trolley, a toppled crate, a misplaced keychain. Sarah's heartbeat accelerated. Someone visited lately. She glanced at the dog, who yelped louder, spurring them. Whatever befell the child, whatever peril she evaded, the menace appeared nearer than assumed. Sarah hastened back to the dog, her pulse thumping fiercer per stride. The officers trailed tightly, disturbed by the storage passage discovery. The German shepherd, frail and semi-aware moments prior, elevated his skull as Sarah returned. His ears stood, snout widening like detecting a unique aroma. Laboring, he endeavored to stand anew. "Calm, calm." Sarah breathed, fearing another fall. But he ignored. His drives reignited, piercing all agony. With quaking resolve, the dog descended the carrier, alighting shakily on the flooring. His limbs trembled, yet he compelled himself vertical, stare anchored in his prior yelp direction. Sarah positioned next to him, baffled, sensing an odor, a person. The dog advanced unsteadily, then again, pursuing an aroma solely he grasped. The officers swapped stares, one whispering, "This animal roused from near faint, and he's pursuing." Sarah nodded stiffly. "Whatever he detects, we must trail." The dog hobbled along the passage, each motion agonizing, yet precise. His muzzle skimmed the ground, then rose to vent, mapping an unseen route. He guided past lounges, past dispensers, past astonished visitors who gawked as a depleted yet resolute canine forged ahead like a warrior on a last quest. At a junction, he halted, inhaled profoundly, and rumbled, the tone deep, threatening, laden with familiarity. Sarah's inhale snagged. He recognized the smell. He encountered it prior. The dog veered sharply right, hauling toward the urgent exit at the corridor's end. The officer surged forward and opened the portal. Cool breeze flooded in. The dog limped outdoors to the shadowy rear zone behind the facility. His inhales labored, but stare acute. Mere yards off, by unkempt turf, rested something half-concealed under foliage. The dog staggered to it, muzzle grazing earth. Sarah knelt by him and stiffened. It was cord matching the child's arm scars. Near the cord were imprints, tiny, panic ones toward the facility, and bigger ones vanishing into woods. Sarah's core raced. She fled, and he trailed her. She breathed. An officer bent to study the soil. Her assailant was here lately. The dog inhaled the cord, then yelped keenly. pivoting to the dim woodland past the facility barrier. His pose changed anew, no more feeble, no more frantic, concentrated, propelled. Sarah gulped. The intent was clear. The dog wasn't merely guiding to proof. He was directing to the child's abuser. The dog neared the woodland rim, muzzle quivering as he drew air profoundly. His coat stood, a subtle rumble pulsing his torso. Sarah sensed a shiver ascend her back. The officers aimed beams at thick undergrowth, showing crushed sod and snapped stems in a messy path. Someone dashed here, one officer said. The dog proceeded, hobbling yet resolute, till pausing by churned dirt. Sarah bent, sweeping foliage, and halted. In the soil lay a red cloth shred, ripped harshly, fibers mired in soil. An officer raised the cloth shard warily. Seems torn in a fight. Sarah's breath halted. It aligned with the child's ripped outfit hue. The dog inhaled the cloth deeply, then yelped once, acute and sure, before tugging onward anew. They tailed him further into the glade. The deeper they ventured, the stiller the realm grew. No breeze, no stirring, no bugs, merely a haunting quiet, like the woodland recall horror. Steps on, the dog stopped anew, pawing wildly at soil despite wounded limb. Sarah knelt by him, shifting limbs so her digits touched chill. It was metallic, sleek, warped, half entombed. She raised it gradually, peering in faint glow. A lantern, she breathed, shattered and muddied. An officer scanned it via light. Not facilities. Dropped in pursuit. The dog yelped anew, stronger, angling to a close trunk. Sarah followed his view, and her gut knotted. Cords dangled slack from a stout limb, worn tips swaying, akin to prior finds. They neared warily. Under the limb were fight traces, profound boot marks, gouges in earth, and upset plants encircling. The officer exhaled sharply. Her captivity spot. Sarah's pulse echoed in her ears. He located her here, she breathed, eyeing the weary dog nearby. He liberated her and bore her to the facility. As affirming, the dog bumped her palm softly, then raised his skull to another path delving woods. New imprints, weighty, slanted, rushed, faded to shadow. The officers traded strained stares. Her tormentor didn't depart freely, one said. They bolted. Sarah firmed her chin. And they're loose. The dog advanced to the imprint path anew, attempting pursuit despite shaking limbs. Sarah rested a palm on his rear. Not yet, she cooed. You've achieved plenty. But the dog moaned, stare imploring like urging chase. The officers eyed each other before one grabbed his communicator. Control. Require hunt squad in woods now. Likely perpetrator site. As woodland beams ignited, reality struck all. This wasn't mere proof. This was the chase's onset. Back in facility, the dog returned to his carrier. Though he resisted reclining till Sarah softly directed, his ribcage heaved unevenly, depletion finally dominating. A clinic vet arrived, bending by him with careful grips. Scan his tag, she said. Sarah petted the dog's crown comfortingly as the device chirped quietly. Moments on, the vet's expression turned from focus to astonishment. Not ordinary dog. Registered as K9 Hero, retired law enforcement K9, reported lost weeks back. Sarah's inhale snagged. Lost? What occurred? The vet accessed records. States vanished in the patrol. Presumed escaped or hurt and astray. Sarah viewed the dog with fresh insight. He didn't flee. He was hunting. Hero raised his skull feebly, pressing into her contact. His stare bore fatigued depths and fidelity nearing tragic. This wasn't chance savior. This was enforcement dog duty-bound post-retirement. An officer neared. If absent that duration, he encountered the child out there. Sarah ascended gradually. He remained with her, she breathed, shielded her, battled for her, bore her here. The awareness spread among them. Hero hadn't delivered the child randomly. He selected her. He denied abandoning her, even battered, famished, or depleted to faint. His role evolved from forced service to preserving one tiny existence. The vet monitored Hero's pulse, head shaking gently, profoundly parched, torn tissues, likely breaks, such harm. Shouldn't walk, much less transport a kid. Sarah's vision blurred, yet he did. The dog's ears flicked like knowing her tone, his stare shifting to the area where the child battled survival. Even pained, even quaking, he sought to rise anew. Sarah pressed softly on his flanks. Rest kindly. She's protected now. But Hero didn't unwind. Not fully. His stare fixed on her portals, awaiting the child he'd hauled from woods. The vet exhaled softly. His devotion's remarkable. An officer noted. This dog didn't merely rescue her. He persisted. Sarah glided her palm over his coat, tone scarcely audible. You're her guardian, and you succeeded. Hero shut lids gradually, pressing into her contact, his frame finally yielding to fatigue's burden. Yet as lids closed, his ears angled to the oar. Still attuned for the child he'd almost perished saving. The woodland pulsed with noises the evening all altered. Gusts whispered amid limbs. Hooters echoed afar, and foliage cracked under tiny, desperate paces. The small child staggered in gloom, her arms chafed from bindings she finally escaped. She lacked direction, only escape urge, but no glow, no vigor, and no defender. Her inhales emerged in acute, shaky puffs. Rearward, limbs broke. Pursuit neared. Her core thumped louder than woodland. She snagged on a root and crashed, abrading knees. Agony surged through her limbs, yet she forced herself upright, frantic. A dim ray of moonlight highlighted the crimson cloth of her ripped gown. She clutched her aching sides, moaning quietly. The woodland horrified her. Each silhouette seemed perilous. Each noise appeared menacing. She staggered further into the shadows, oblivious that a set of luminous eyes observed her from the foliage, not pursuing her, safeguarding her. K9 Hero had been shadowing her for leagues. Hero had broken free from a snare that morning, his collar severed, his gear shredded, his task unfinished. He had parted from his prior squad, but his drives wouldn't permit him to cease hunting. Upon detecting a kid's subtle sob, he pursued the echo tirelessly. Each cry pulled him nearer until he discovered her on the woodland ground, quivering in dread. He neared gradually, prudently, dipping his muzzle so she wouldn't panic. The child glanced up, gaze broad, then sank into his coat, weeping. The dog leaned on her tenderly, grasping all sans alone utterance. Seconds on, branches cracked anew, identical paces nearing. The child rigidified in horror, gripping Hero's throat. Hero's frame tightened promptly. He stationed between the child and the oncoming hazard. A dim silhouette shifted amid the trunks, probing, grumbling irately. Hero rumbled, subtle, profound, clear. The silhouette halted, grasping he faced more than a vulnerable kid. As the figure advanced, Hero sprang ahead with an authoritative yelp, resounding via the woodland. The figure swore, faltering rear, snagging on roots prior to dashing into gloom. Once danger vanished, Hero reverted to the child, bumping her softly. She sobbed into his coat anew, murmuring, "Don't abandon me." Hero didn't waver. He aligned his flank to her, urging her to mount his rear. She lacked strength to tread. Her entire form shook with depletion. With quaking palms, she encircled his throat. Hero balanced, sensing her burden settle. He made his initial stride, gradual, cautious, defensive, commencing the extended trek to refuge. The woodland expanded boundlessly ahead, yet he denied halt. Hour upon hour, Hero bore her via dense thicket, sharp inclines, and icy brooks. His tissues quivered, his limbs occasionally folded, yet he forged ahead. When she slid, he paused, realigning so she stayed secure. When she moaned in ache, he lapped her palms soothingly. Once she breathed, "Thanks, don't allow my end." And Hero replied solely as able, by advancing, pace after grueling pace, his resolve firmer than the load pressing his form. Right pre-dawn, he spotted glows afar, the facility. With his final vigor, he aimed directly at it. The procedure lamps faded, and the strain permeating the corridor gradually eased as the theater portal parted. Dr. Thompson emerged, lowering his cover, fatigue deep on his visage. Sarah rose instantly, her core thumping. "Is she?" She breathed. The physician assented. She endured the procedure. Stable presently, though frail. Relief flooded Sarah, almost folding her knees. She hastened within with approval, locating the tiny child reposing under cozy covers, devices chirping softly nearby. The space seemed delicate, mute, optimistic. Sarah drew nearer, sweeping a lock from the kid's brow. Her flesh remained wan, but her inhale steadier. "You're protected now," Sarah breathed, her tone shaking. Moments elapsed ere the child's lids quivered. Gradually, her gaze unveiled, baffled, alarmed, scanning. Sarah promptly bent in. "All fine, dear. You're at the facility. You're secure." The child shut lids briefly, striving to comprehend. Her mouth separated arid and quaking, and briefly Sarah dreaded she couldn't utter. Then scarcely heard, the child exhaled one term. "Hero." Sarah stiffened. A jolt pierced her breast. The child's gaze brimmed with droplets, tiny flanks quaking under the cover. She sought to rise, yet her form too feeble. Sarah tenderly restrained her. "He's present," she cooed. "He's secure. He delivered you to us." The child's visage eased, a subtle grin shaping amid hurt. "He didn't forsake me," she breathed. Sarah gulped firmly. "No, he didn't." The kid gripped Sarah's digits, holding the comfort. "I need him," she said, her tone fracturing with yearning. Sarah paused. The dog was recovering still, linked to drips and scarcely aware. Yet she noted the terror in the child's gaze, the urgent want for her sole trust. "I'll verify him," Sarah vowed. The child assented feebly, gaze shutting anew from depletion. As Sarah exited the space, she spotted aides assembled near Hero's carrier. He was aware now, though scarcely elevating his skull, when portals opened. His ears stood as he detected Sarah nearing. Despite ache, he strove to stand anew. Sarah crouched by him, droplets finally escaping. "She's alert," she breathed. Hero's appendage tapped feebly on the pad. "She seeks you." The dog compelled himself to his forelimbs, vibrating fiercely with strain. Sarah shook her crown. No, stay put. I'll fetch her." Hero's gaze mellowed, yet he denied reclining till Sarah softly pushed a palm to his breast. "I vow," she breathed, "you'll view her." Only then he unwound, exhaling unsteadily. Sarah rose, eyeing between the dual spaces, one kid battling for power, one dog battling via hurt, all linked by devotion profounder than speech. Investigators reached the facility pre-dawn, called by the proof unearthed in the woodland and the child state. Sarah led them to the rear entry where cord, imprints, and shattered lantern were located. Hunt groups were scouring the woods, already when one investigator neared Sarah. The imprints fleeing the glade were recent, he noted. Her assailant didn't escape distant. The dog, Hero, perked his ears at the investigator's timbre, detecting the air's change. Even battered, he stayed vigilant, sensing the pressing urgency dense in the atmosphere. In the woodland, personnel trailed the weighty imprints via thick growth till arriving at a rough encampment concealed behind toppled trunks. Shredded cloth bits, tossed wrappers, and a partially scorched coat scattered the earth. One personnel raised a coat, showing a label sewn within, proof abandoned in the culprit's frenzy. He departed hastily. The chief investigator grumbled. He sensed Hero pursuing. Seconds on, the canine squad arrived with their animals, aiding the hunt. The personnel traded resolute nods. The pursuit commenced formally. The path delved deeper into woods till personnel discovered a slim route etched via high growth. At its tip rested a tiny forsaken hut, its portal askew. Within, imprints blanketed the dust-laden flooring and a lone lamp rested broken. Then they unearthed something eerie, a mobile fractured yet operational. A personnel browsed its latest texts, gaze broadening. He intended relocating her anew. He noted this eve pre-discovery. The personnel required no further drive. With proof locked, they broadened the hunt area, resolute to seize a figure pre-area escape. Back at the facility, Sarah informed Hero of the evolving probe, as if he grasped each term, and in ways he did. His ears flicked at enforcement transmitters buzzing nearby. Abruptly, a timbre echoed via an investigator's device. "Culprit found, repeat. Culprit found." Fleeing afoot, Hero promptly sought to rise, limbs quaking under him. He released a keen yelp, gaze aflame with drive to conclude his start. Sarah pushed her palms on his flanks, steadying him. "You've achieved plenty," she breathed, though aware he craved shielding the child till finale. Minutes on, personnel transmitted the ultimate report. Culprit detained, repeat, culprit detained. Relief surged the facility passage. Sarah exhaled unsteadily, droplets burning her gaze. Hero's form finally unwound as if his task truly ended. The investigator neared Sarah with thanks in his timbre. "Your animal preserved her existence and aided our capture." Sarah eyed Hero, who observed the procedure portal with weary fidelity. "He's not mine," she breathed. "He's hers." And as personnel hauled the offender off, one fact grew irrefutable. Hero hadn't merely saved the child. He had brought retribution. The subtle chirping of the devices permeated the healing space as the small child gradually returned to awareness. Her lashes quivered, and she angled her skull faintly, grimacing from the tenderness in her throat. Sarah was by her flank already, providing a comforting grin. "You're protected," she cooed tenderly. The child shut lids, striving to recall her location. Her view roamed the space. Pale partitions, gentle glows, covers neatly enfolded about her. Yet absence lingered. Her inhales hastened. Where's Hero?" she breathed, timbre quaking. Sarah bent nearer, gliding her digit tenderly over the child's palm. "He's at the facility," she noted. "He's reposing." The child shook her crown feebly, droplets gathering at her gaze edges. "I require him," she said. "He remained with me." He blocked their seizure. Her timbre fractured, alarm threatening resurgence. Sarah clasped her palms solidly. "All fine, dear. He's close. He's secure, and he's awaited." The child's quaking lessened subtly, yet her gaze stayed laden with desire. She sought rising, yet the ache caused her to inhale sharply, and Sarah tenderly aided her. "Gentle," Sarah cooed softly. "You've endured much." The child gazed up at her, timbre scarcely heard. May I view him kindly?" The appeal wasn't theatrical. It was bare, delicate, and sincere. Sarah sensed her core wrench. This wasn't basic plea. It was a soul anchor to security and optimism. Sarah assented gradually. "I'll fetch him," she vowed, "but remain motionless. Allow healing." The child assented feebly, easing back on the cushions. Her tiny digits held Sarah's palm as if dreading vanishing. "He rescued me," she breathed. "I was terrified, and he never departed." Sarah swept the palm via her locks, timbre mellowing further. "He didn't abandon you momentarily," she said. Even battered, he persisted. The child shut gaze, inhaling unsteadily. "I thought none would locate me," she breathed, "but he did." Hero arrived. Each utterance bore the burden of her trials. Sarah sensed droplets burn her gaze, yet restrained. She bent near and pressed lips to the child's brow tenderly. "I'll fetch him," she vowed anew. The child's digits eased faintly, relying. Sarah rose and exited the space, exhaling unsteadily. Along the passage, Hero rested on his carrier, gaze half unveiled. Yet the instant he detected the portal creak, he raised his skull. Sarah grinned amid the feeling clenching her breast. "She's seeking you," she breathed. Hero strove to rise despite wounds, and Sarah grasped naught could separate them now. Sarah gradually pushed Hero's carrier along the mute facility passage, her grips firm, yet her core pounding. The German shepherd, though feeble, raised the skull every few instants, gaze centered forward as if already detecting his destination. "Calm, lad," Sarah breathed. "Nearly there." His ears flicked at the child's device chirping subtly from the space ahead, despite tubes and wraps encircling his limb. Hero sought anew to propel himself vertical. Sarah tenderly directed him down. "She's awaiting you," she said. When the carrier crossed the threshold, the child's gaze unveiled promptly, as if her core identified his aura pre-mined. Her inhale snagged and droplets brimmed her gaze. "Hero," she breathed, extending a quaking palm. Hero replied with subtle heartfelt moan, elevating despite ache. Sarah swiftly aided him, assisting his rise sufficient to rest paws tenderly at the bed's rim. The child released a small weep of ease, gliding her digits via his coat with quaking grips. The instant Hero sensed her contact, his whole form mellowed. His appendage tapped feebly on the carrier, all strain dissolving to warmth. The child bent ahead, pressing her brow to his, murmuring terms none else heard. Sarah retreated, granting space, droplets silently clouding her view. Aides assembled at the portal observed quietly, touched by the link between the injured kid and the dog, who denied forsaking her even as his existence risked. The child caressed his jaw with delicate tips. "You returned," she breathed. Hero bumped her tenderly, aligning his muzzle to her hand. Sarah gulped firmly. "He never departed you," she cooed. "He shadowed you via woodland, shielded you, bore you, then delivered you to us." The child assented, droplets tracing her cheeks. "I lacked fear with him," she said. "Even amid hurt, he remained with me." Her timbre fractured, and Hero replied with another gentle moan, aligning nearer. Sarah neared gradually, resting a soothing palm on the child's flank. "He's secure now, and you too." The child eased back on her cushions, retaining one palm on Hero's crown. "May he remain?" she queried, alarm flickering anew. Sarah grinned warmly. "He's staying nowhere else." Hero reposed by her bed, gaze finally shutting, not from depletion solely, but from serenity. For the initial occasion since woodland entry, he sensed the task included, and the child, with her small palm clutching his coat, finally sensed security enough to doze off. Dawn rays poured softly via the facility panes as Dr. Thompson entered the space, his demeanor mild and kind. The child slumbered tranquilly still, her palm on Hero's coat. The dog dozed too, ribcage lifting evenly. At last, devoid of dread, Sarah positioned at the bed's base, observing them with a blend of ease and wonder. They endured, the physician noted quietly. Sarah assented, droplets forming, since he denied surrender. The physician neared, reviewing the child's records. It's wondrous she lived, and more wondrous he did. That morn, facility personnel assembled beyond the space as enforcement arrived with formal reports. One enforcer advanced, speaking to the modest assembly. K-9 Hero didn't merely preserve her existence, he noted. He provided the path we required to locate the offender. Sans him, this matter would linger unresolved. Sarah sensed pride expand in her breast. The small child awoke gradually, blinking at the enforcers. Hero elevated the skull too, detecting the energy change. Sarah bent in. "They're present due to you too," she breathed. The enforcer neared the bed, crouching by the child with a tender grin. "You're quite courageous," he cooed softly. The child shook her crown, grazing Hero's ear. "He's the courageous one," she breathed. Hero bumped her palm nearly as if shy from the focus. The enforcer laughed. "We concur." He delved into his pouch and extracted a tiny metallic emblem token. "This for him," he noted, affixing it tenderly to Hero's band. "For remarkable valor." Sarah's gaze brimmed promptly. The child's grin quaked with feeling as she breathed. "My savior." Word swiftly circulated the facility. Personnel, ill, even guests clustered near the passage to glimpse the famed canine who had borne a harmed kid via woodland to refuge. Aides fetched snacks. Kids sketched images of Hero, and grown-ups dabbed their gaze quietly. Sarah observed as the small child rose with aid, her palm never departing Hero's coat. "What follows?" she queried shyly. Sarah knelt by her. "Now you recover," she cooed tenderly, "and he recovers beside you." The child assented, leaning to the dog who had rescued her existence. That dusk, as the sun sank low, projecting cozy amber glow over the space, the child breathed something to Sarah. "May he remain with me?" Hero raised his skull. "I'm between them." Sarah grinned mildly. "I believe he already chose that." And right pre the clip concluded, a note emerged on the display. If this tale touched you, remember to thumbs up, distribute, and join. Tap the alert so you always catch another wondrous tale of bravery, fidelity, and optimism. Hero placed the skull tenderly on the child's thigh, evidence that at times saviors lack cloaks. They tread on 4 feet.